For me, appreciation is just as much about ourselves as it is about what others do onto us. Let's say I go on a date and I dress up in my best suit, and it's a blind date and I just showed up and I'm like, cool, awesome, finish the date. I get a text, hey, we won't be seeing each other again. Okay? I can start looking at myself and being like, maybe my tie was not the right color. But I'm looking at the wrong thing there, because I'm looking at the result in which I presented myself with. But if I look at the effort I gave to try to understand that person, I come to a different reflection. That is appreciation of yourself to its full extent, but also appreciation of the people you serve, because you're showing them, I'm not going to waste your time.
What happens in the brain is that if we feel a social exclusion, then it activates the same circuits that would be activated when we feel physical pain. So it is our brain signaling as it really is painful. It's really hurtful to us if we don't get that sign of, hey, I see you, or I include you. Appreciation isn't just a nice to have. It triggers a biological, physiological, and psychological response, which determines how we feel with ourselves and ultimately navigate the workplace. Welcome to the Neurolympics podcast, brought to you by BrainsFirst, a company that helps you make better talent decisions powered by neuroscience. I'm Lucy, I'm the host of the Neurolympics podcast, and I myself have a background in psychology and applied neuroscience. Well, Younes, welcome to our podcast. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
How are you feeling today?
Good. It's been a long day, but happy to be here.
Yeah, I feel you. As we can see, it's already dark outside, so it's a bit late for us, but I think it's actually perfect for all these deep insights, right?
Exactly. I think my philosophical thoughts come in best at this time.
I love it. Younes, what is appreciation to you?
For me, I think appreciation is about understanding someone for who they truly are, but then also by sort of giving them feedback and showing them that care and that understanding through the ways that are the most understandable to them.
I really like this side. I also thought about it, and I feel like, appreciation you can show in a lot of ways. And I wonder if you agree with this, but I related to the podcast how I feel about it. Let's say someone comes up to me and is like, hey, Lucy, really nice podcast episode. Great to hear. But what moves me a lot more is if someone reads between the lines, or if you can tell that someone really put some thought on this, or actually listen to it and comes back to like one specific part of the podcast and says, hey, Lucy, you connected these topics very well, or you left and created a nice room for the guests to share their perspective. In that sense, I feel like appreciation, I value it a lot more if I can tell that someone really cared or really put some effort into something, and then for me that has a bigger impact.
For sure, and I think I can relate to that as well, because it's sometimes when I get the comments of like, oh, that was really cool what you did on whatever project I was working on, I'm like, cool, but I almost feel like there's a maybe another intent behind that the comment of appreciation.
Yeah.
But when the comment of appreciation is a lot more sort of founded on what the effort was that I was putting in, I feel like it's a lot more honest, but I also feel like it's it actually comes from that understanding of what I was trying to do. And I can relate to it more because, as you said, like for the podcast, if let's say you're trying to work on the questions, someone goes, I really liked the questions and how thoughtful they were and how you showed the understanding towards the other person. That obviously is directly something that you were working on. So you're like, I am doing this well. Or maybe I'm not doing it so well, or whatever the response is from there. But and I think that's oftentimes the better way to show that appreciation.
Yeah, you call out the more specific, or you add a level of specificity to it, and that already tells more, I feel like, to the story.
Yeah, and the thing is, even on the opposite side, when it comes to like giving more negative feedback. So let's say I hear something and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have done it that way, I maybe disagree with it. We tend to be specific there. We tend to be
True.
like, no,
Yeah.
this was the thing that I didn't like, and this is what could be improved. So why not apply that same philosophy to, well, appreciation as a whole?
I like this. I haven't really thought about appreciation being on a sort of feedback side, because I feel like automatically we would think of appreciation as being this positive concept, praise or giving compliments, but that helps you to grow, like a sort of feedback that helps you do better. That's a big form of appreciation.
Of course,
I
but I
like
also
that you
think
bring it up. Yeah.
I think that that's sort of in the dance between two human beings or in a conversation. But I think appreciation can also be shown in other ways. Like, for example, at a football team or at some sort of like sports team, it's about appreciation can be shown by being given the trust to be on the field during the
Mm.
critical hours. Sometimes it can also be shown by just being heard for the concerns you brought up to the team. Like, for someone, it's super important to have, let's say, breaks during practice for
Mm-hmm.
water. They keep on mentioning it to their coach, and their coach goes, "Look, we have an hour to train. We're not going to do 5 minute breaks for water."
Yeah.
But then that one day that the coach understands that person for what they were actually asking for,
Yeah.
maybe they were just feeling really tired and they needed that break for that water. So sometimes that coach can just go and show that appreciation by just being like, "Hey, Kevin, you asked about that water break. Why don't you take it now as I get the group started on this?" And then you just join them. And then immediately you feel seen, you feel heard, but you also feel like you belong to that community because they're caring for you the way you want to be cared for.
Mm. I like this. It's actually like fine tuning into someone's needs and making them heard, giving them a voice, and also showing a form of giving someone responsibility, as you said in the beginning, with playing on the field or showing a trust. I think that's it's not always only words of affirmation as might come up first in our heads. It's also by the duties you show or what you how much you give someone to take care of, like put into their hands. I like that perspective.
Yeah, and it's also, I guess, about sort of that I don't know if belief is the right word here, but it's associated to that trust, but it's like you believe that that person is worth that effort. And when
Mm.
you give that effort, it shows them as well, like, hey, I'm not just like doing this because it came to my mind and it's oh, it seems like I haven't given you enough positive feedback, so I'm telling you great job. I'm doing this because I noticed the effort and I'm putting in that effort myself. And oftentimes for me, that's also what makes me feel the most appreciated.
Nice. What happens if you don't feel appreciated or if you don't feel like someone is valuing you or giving you a voice?
um on a personal side, I think for myself at least, I have to differentiate between appreciation and sort of validation,
Mm-hmm.
but then also at the same time positive feedback, which I wouldn't be too sure exactly how to categorize these in a theoretical way.
Yeah.
But I think for me, when I don't feel that appreciation as a whole, or that positive feedback, or that validation, I feel like what I'm doing may not be actually hitting the mark, and may
Mm-hmm.
not actually be touching people where I want it to be touching people. Um, I work in communications and specifically for NGOs. So for me, my goal is really through the messaging work that I work on to impact the people we try to serve and the people we try to support. So in that, it can be a lot of like um, it can, it's a lot of work, but it can be a lot based on these we say vibes,
Yeah. Yeah.
essentially vibes of what are our understandings, and a lot of the times that gives me a lack of certainty.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
hearing that appreciation becomes important because it tells me that I'm on the right track. But
Yeah.
at the same time, not hearing it makes me feel like maybe I'm not considering something, or maybe this person doesn't like it. But then when
Gotcha.
it lasts for a long time, I also can start interpreting that as, oh, I'm not valued correctly. So for
Yeah.
me, it kind of also flips,
Yeah.
where it becomes about where my self-worth, my own self-esteem do take a bit of a hit. And then at a certain point, I'm like, no, because
You
I'm the
take it
one
back.
building it.
Yeah.
And I'm taking it back. And when I take it back, I claim it to be mine because it's my value.
Yeah.
And that's where sort of I come to understand that I've gone too far and not expressed my boundaries or how I would like to be shown appreciation early enough.
That to me is super interesting because also it shows that your immediate response is I take it personal. Right? And it's this reflection, oh, you might be doing something wrong. But I feel like a lot of people are just not really good at showing appreciation. It doesn't in the first place have to be that you're doing something wrong or that you're off track. It just shows how necessary it is for us as a kind of confirmation, or that we're actually looking for these signs of, hey, am I doing this right? And am I on the right path? And if there's no like social response coming back, then we immediately interpret it this way. I'm actually thinking about a study I had during my university time, where we looked into infants, and it showed that infants, in order to take what seemed a bit like a threatening step towards, I think it was a piece of floor and it was glass, and infants usually don't see these kind of glass floors, and it seems a bit new to them. In order to take that step, they were constantly looking to their moms, to their caregivers, for facial expressions. And when they got a smile, in the study it showed the infants would actually crawl on that surface. But when the mom was not showing any facial expressions, so stayed like neutral, or like a bit of like this kind of face, like that might signal there's something going on, the infant wouldn't move. And I thought this was so interesting because it's so ingrained in us that we're looking for these social signals in other people to confirm if we're doing something right or wrong. I feel like that's what you've been just
You know,
kind of voicing. Yeah.
I I would not have understood that from that study
Mm-hmm.
without that bridge that you just made at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you were talking about that study, I saw it as in like, oh, it's about risk assessment, and then we get social cues to be able to determine the risk of taking a
Mm-hmm.
certain action.
Mm-hmm.
But then it also goes a step beyond that, which is that our idea of what even is risk comes from these social cues.
Yeah.
Because for us as a kid or as a toddler, you see the glass floor and you're like, oh, what is this? You want to explore it and you have that curiosity, but because it's foreign, you're worried.
Yeah.
So then you look around you and then that's so that and then you make up your judgment of it. So that I really like that example, and I think it actually holds to be very true even as we grow older, except for the fact that those social cues, I think that circle gets bigger and bigger, where now we care about our friends, we care about our
Mm-hmm.
family, we care about, and that world gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And so the challenge there as well is that uh, because it's a two-way street, the interaction with this social
Mm-hmm.
circle, it's also
For
about
sure.
us expressing how we want to be shown that appreciation, as much as it is about us expressing it. So I think you're right with also with how you started it, which was we don't necessarily know how to show that appreciation.
Yeah. Yeah. And what does it? I'm curious. What does it do to you personally? Like, do you recognize you're showing certain emotions or certain behaviors when you feel not valued?
Yeah, I get a bit hard-headed,
Okay. Yeah.
and I'm a bit like the best way I can describe it is like almost like burnout,
Mm.
especially in a work context,
Yeah.
because for me that appreciation is maybe to go concrete before we go on the broad part.
Yeah.
So for me, that appreciation, for example, at a workplace can be shown not only in the contract and what's in it, and sort of how do they value you in that way, but also in your communication with the manager.
Yeah.
There is a feedback process that's happening every single day.
Mm-hmm.
What happens there? Is there actually sort of attention being given to the work that you're doing? but also to who you are and what your ambitions are. And
Gotcha.
because work can complicate the social dynamics a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a challenge that I face still to this day, and that I see a lot of people facing around me, which is just communicating those appropriate ways to be shown that appreciation, and to be giving it as well. But then your question was about how what does it do to me on a personal side,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. How you react, like in terms of emotions or behaviors that you would show if you feel like undervalued or someone's not appreciating you.
I mean, because that's the thing. At first, it's masqueraded, uh, and it has this facade of where the for me the first signal is that insecurity,
Yeah,
which is held within myself.
yeah.
If I'm confident about some work, I don't necessarily care for getting appreciation
Mm-hmm.
for it. Sometimes it's nice, but when I'm not so confident about that work, that's when I look for it. So then I'm starting to think maybe I'm incapable of this. Maybe I'm not
Mm,
made for it.
yeah.
And then through that, it's obviously can go through different emotions. For me personally, it can range from fear
Mm-hmm.
of, am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
To anger of, no, like, why did I even do this? Or why am I even in this anymore? And it's like a bit of that anger of, am I wasting my time?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's really the thing of it at first, and then with insecurities, it's lifelong battles almost. So
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
time I
Very
try
well
to
said.
change my response or my reply to it, and then you live and you adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these lifelong battles, I mean, it makes sense now if we turn a bit more to the really philosophical side. Why is it so important for us human beings to feel seen? And there's something really interesting, I think, happening on a physiological level or biological level that, and it makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. If we feel seen, it was kind of shown as a support from a group, or it was came as or signaled safety from your in group. While the opposite, if you felt left out, excluded, or not seen, um, well, was interpreted as a sign of threat. You were not as safe anymore. And it what happens in the brain is that if we feel a social exclusion or not seen, then it activates the same circuits that would be activated when we feel physical pain. So there's a part in the brain that's called the anterior cingulate cortex, and that shows up or activates when we feel when we don't feel seen or socially excluded. So it is our brain signaling as it really is painful. It's really hurtful to us if we don't get that sign of, hey, I see you, or include you. I think it's very interesting because it shows that it's a threat response to us, and the cortisol levels go up, and it's really stressful for us as humans if we feel excluded or not seen.
I, and I think that I didn't know that before, but for me,
Mm-hmm.
I always associated the idea of burnout of the time when your mental fatigue reaches your physical fatigue,
Mm-hmm.
and then the two of them converge, where you no longer know whether you need a good run or whether you need a shower or
Mm-hmm.
some
Mm-hmm.
time away. And
Yeah.
and I think for me as well, that's definitely the case, because when I face, I understand, of course, burnout comes from sort of like um, visions of the future and your belonging in it, and all of this, but I also feel like there are certain present things that
Mm-hmm.
impact how you currently feel.
Yeah.
And the signals for me that signify that I am going into a burnout, or that I'm going into that, are, for example, me waking up and having pain in my knees, and I'm like,
Crazy. Yeah.
why am I so tired physically?
Yeah. Where's this
Uh,
coming from? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And thinking of it now, that's probably from feeling like I'm not seen or heard or appreciated.
It's this like holistic picture, right? It's like the mind body connection ultimately. Um yeah, it's super interesting, I think. By the way, I wanted to comment on your way of how you feel when you're not appreciated. I think if that happens to me, I get like louder, and I get a bit more expressive
Mm.
and have the feeling I need to prove myself more. But it shows up instead of, some people take it inwards more and become more quiet. I think I become louder. I'm like, hey, I want to be seen, And that's it, also for me just very uncomfortable, because I feel like it's out of my comfort zone, or I feel like I'm standing next to myself. So it's yeah, it can go like both ways. You take it a bit more inward, or you show it a bit more
And
outwards.
you know, I I think that that's also definitely the case for me
Hmm.
because yeah, because in a way it kind of makes sense to me in my brain because it's like if I don't feel heard, I want to speak louder. And
Yeah.
when you speak louder, oftentimes it's out of these like negative emotions. It's not really because you're ecstatic. And because I am in that negative emotion, I'm not too happy with myself as I'm doing it. And as you said, I also feel like I'm standing next to myself, almost watching myself react. And that's where I come back to, for me, appreciation is just as much about ourselves as it is about what others do onto us.
Hmm.
Um,
Good one.
because at the end of the day, we are the ones that control those responses. We are the ones that um, decide in a way what triggers us and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it becomes about us as much as about the other people.
Yeah, that's true. Do you actually think there can be too much appreciation, like especially in the workplace, like where it reaches a point where it's like, that's a bit too much?
Maybe like Taylor Swift fans or something like that. Like,
Can you elaborate on that?
I mean, I don't know. Just like if you have like people screaming your name on a daily basis wherever you go, that must do something to your ego.
When you go to the supermarket, you're not doing anything in particular, and people scream your name. That's true.
Exactly.
It's
Like
like, where is this coming from?
that must impact your ego in some way, and that's why I think a lot of artists are like ego driven because
Yeah,
it makes sense. The ego is the part that shapes it as well, and it's not all bad.
yeah.
But I think there can definitely be too much appreciation. But I would add asterisk to that and say too much appreciation in the wrong way
Mm.
because I think that can also lead to frustration because um yeah, if let's say at the workplace I'm always told, man, without you we can't be doing this, it's so great, you know.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, that shows appreciation,
yeah.
but you never actually like noticed anything that I did, or like you know, like at a certain point
What do
I'm
you
like,
base this on?
yeah,
Kind of.
at a certain
Yeah.
point I become frustrated because I'm like, trust me, I know you can't do this without me,
No.
but what is it that you can't do, you know?
Can you be more specific? Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
more specific from them, like to just give you the
Exactly.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
And I think it also comes with pressure. Because I would, if that happens to me, I would be like, exactly, what do you base it on? And then in the back of my mind, I would be like, I'm not doing something that special. So what if at some point they will figure out it's not that special, and then they will be disappointed? So that can also create some performance pressure or performance anxiety.
Exactly, and I think on that performance side and that pressure side, one thing that I've actually been exploring recently, just on my personal life, which is sort of these loaded appreciation comments.
Mm-hmm.
And by loaded appreciation comments, I'm sure there's an actual technical word for this. So please try to find it and then let me know. Um, but yeah, it's like the sort of comments of like, wow, look at what you did. It's so nice. I have never gone to be able to do this. Okay, why do you have to compare the awesome thing I just did to like something you haven't? Like, just give it to me for what it is. You don't have to compare it to yourself. And then that sort of, for me, I feel like at least it burdens me with that issue. You see what I mean? So it's like
Yes.
now it's my issue to figure out why you haven't done this.
It's suddenly becoming a you problem.
Yeah, I'm like, thanks, I guess, but let's come back to what you were saying. Why haven't you been able to do it? You
Yeah.
know, so it's kind of like this, and I think for me at least, it manifests itself in my um daily life would just like sometimes when, for example, my friends are going through a difficult time or something, um, and then one of my friends comes in and goes, "Guys, I have such exciting news. I got that promotion at the job finally, and I spoke to my boss, and he gave it to me."
Yeah.
And then I'm like there listening, and then I hear another friend of mine go, "Oh, really? That's so nice. But you've only been with them with 6 months. I've been at my job for 2 years
Mm-hmm.
and nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really a cool workplace that you have." So it's like it's a sandwich of of appreciation, with
Yeah.
in the middle of it a burden that they
Yeah.
gave on to the other person.
Whoa.
Yeah.
True. True. Because we ultimately live in this world of comparison. We would always draw a comparison, right? But it's hard to compare, especially in the workplace, because everyone does it differently and everyone sees appreciation differently. And it's like it's really hard to compare. But is there, would you say, is there a recipe um, for, you put together these ingredients and that's ultimately how workplaces should appreciate their employees so that they really feel seen, valued?
I think oftentimes we make the mistake of thinking that appreciation is shown by scheduling those one-on-ones and doing the mid-year feedback sessions,
Mm-hmm.
and then also being like, "Hey, thanks for this great work." But I think if there was honestly one ingredient to appreciation, it would be time. Time with the other
Mm,
person, but also time dedicated to caring for the other. Because
I like
appreciation,
that.
to show it, of course, you can show it
Time.
to yourself, but to the other, it's about the only way you can really get to it is if you put that as your intention. So
Yeah,
if you don't set that as the intention, you end up in the pitfalls, which are comparison, which are degrading someone, which are not actually helping them feel valued. Um, and then that's something that comes from understanding the background of the person, but then also understanding how they work and how they do things, and what do they like and what do they not like. Um, and I feel like at the beginnings of jobs, oftentimes this sets the tone for what that appreciation could look like.
mhm.
Because when you're negotiating contracts, or when you're talking about salaries and all of this, we start to see it as in, well, my previous job used to pay me this. Now you're paying me less or more, whatever it is.
Yeah,
That's that indicates something about the appreciation they have towards you and the value that they see in you.
for sure.
But then it's also about the responsibilities they give you, and how do they manage those responsibilities. Are they the kind of, so are they micromanagers, or are they more like, no, free reign, do what you want? And sometimes micromanagement can actually be something that shows that appreciation. Just to the wrong person, it doesn't come off as that.
You're right. Now we're touching upon this diversity, I think, of what people actually need. There's some people for whom appreciation is that micromanagement because they feel like, oh, my manager spends time with me and invests time into looking behind my shoulder and or over my shoulder and checking what I'm doing and is interested in what I'm doing. While there's other people who are like, I really feel appreciated if they just let me do my thing and they give me the trust and they don't have to micromanage me. Like it's and that's where I think is ultimately appreciation is individualistic. Like I really liked your answer about time because I think time can also go a lot of different ways. Like if we connect it to the micromanagement, it's investing time into looking your employee over the shoulder. That's one time aspect. However, time can also mean um, you do your independent work, but I, as a manager, put in the time to, for example, Lucy, check on you what you're doing in the podcast by watching the podcast, and that's how I invest my time. So ultimately, it can unfold in a lot of different ways. But I think time is really time is a great answer.
Yeah, it just came at me
It's
in the
timeless.
moment. Yeah, but I think one thing to add to that, which in the while discussing the idea of like, is there a recipe or a framework for showing appreciation? I think one interesting thing that comes to mind, which we spoke about before the podcast, actually, is the idea of rewards and how there's a big difference between giving someone rewards based on effort and then based on the final sort of result. And I think there what you have is, so they did this experiment where they got a group of students together and they taught them the same class about, let's say, um, the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And then they gave them all a test, and this test was the exact same. The tests were then graded, and then at the top of the test they wrote great effort, or I see what you did. And they made comments specifically about the effort that the students put in learning that material.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the other test, they put comments like, great stuff, good work, good job, you're a star. So these are very
Mm-hmm.
sort of result oriented. They're more
Yeah.
about what the end goal is, which is the grade,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And they realized that the students who received the comments or the feedback based on effort not only were more interested in learning more about the atmosphere and learning more about the earth and um, how everything works,
Yeah.
but also they performed better over time because they
Hmm.
had that motivation, because in their brain it got connected that, wow, so I put in some effort and then I got this grade. And the teacher was like, made a comment about the effort, not about the grade. So maybe if I put in more effort, actually I will do better. And that's a win-win for everyone. The teacher is like, great, my students are doing what they're needing to do. And then the students are like, I actually feel fulfilled with what I'm doing. And I think that's also joins in with the workplace, because if we were to put in more effort, more effort towards giving in the rewards about the effort,
Yeah.
we would, I think, see employees and we would see colleagues feel more belonging to that mission,
That's
and
great.
give
Yeah.
them the drive to continue on doing better and learning and improving and not just stagnating.
And to jump onto your wagon, I think it's really great what you're saying. Ultimately, the end product will benefit from the efforts, right? It's like a connecting train. No, I don't know what the
Yeah,
word is. Like
it's all connected.
it's
Yeah.
all connected. And I'm also thinking about from a BrainsFirst perspective, actually. Um, since this is a company podcast, I would say that how we would interpret appreciation in the workplace is that you're able as an employer to shape the work environment in a way that everyone is able to thrive to their abilities, to create the best environments, and not the other way around, as we do it a lot, that we come in as an employee and then they try to fit us in. No, how can we see your needs and your values and actually create a space so that you can thrive? So we make it about you and not about us. And by doing that, the efforts become more easier. Like if you work in line with what you're good at or what your needs are or what you need in order to really feel valued, then ultimately the end product will benefit from it. You'll probably be better at your work, better productivity, better performance, better outcome. So I think ultimately focusing on the effort is an important part of the journey that gets you to the end goal, to the result.
Of course. And then just to, maybe this is a tangent that won't be connecting by the end of it, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it comes to recognizing the effort, for example, so the thing I want to get to is how effort is also what people in the public, when by public I mean in marketing work, we reach the public, or we
Yeah.
reach audiences. um I think that's kind of the thing that people look out for, is the effort put into the actual message that was sent to them. um and I think that also shows appreciation of your own community. So just to put this in a smaller example to also connect it to all of this is, um let's say I go on a date and I dress up in my best suit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a blind date, and I just showed up and I'm like, cool, awesome, finish the date. I get a text, hey, we won't be seeing each other again.
Mm.
Okay. I
Mm-hmm.
can start looking at myself and being like, maybe my tie was not the right color.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe my hat was not right. Oh no, my shoes. I should have changed my shoes.
For
But
sure,
I'm looking at
shoes.
the wrong thing there because I'm looking at the result in which I presented myself with. But if I
Right.
look at the effort I gave to try to understand that person, I come to a different reflection. And I come to understand that actually maybe I should have been more attentive to what she was saying. Or maybe I should have not spoken as much. And this is the tangent, but that's the mistake we kind of make when we try to speak to people and to market to them or to um, gain their permission to give attention um, to our company or our product or our service or whatever it is, which is we just assume that because we're well dressed, people will care. But no, it's about the deeper part of it. And I think that is appreciation of yourself to its full extent, but also appreciation of the people you serve because you're showing them, I'm not gonna waste your time.
I
I'm
think we can
glad.
wrap up. We can go home. That was the message of the day.
That's
I
awesome.
love
I'm
that.
glad we
No,
connected.
that was super. Also with the image that you gave, it's ultimately like about the perspective change. What are we looking at, and what do we think will bring us further? Or, um, yeah, are we looking in the right place or in the wrong place with the right eyes, or being blinded? So I love that example. That was strong.
Exactly. No, and
That was
it's
strong.
it's something that I've felt it in my previous work experiences. Like I've had internships where, for example, I would go and there was obviously a lot of appreciation because from their side they were telling me, oh, it's so great you're making us this content. Again, coming back to without you, we wouldn't have anyone making the content. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I get it, but if it wasn't me, it would be another intern.
Yeah.
Um, and there ultimately I worked I worked at this specific internship for like maybe 6 months, and starting the second week I was already clocked out, and I was clocked out because of that idea that all of that effort that I was putting in instead was the response I was getting was about the general role I'm playing to them, but then also on the negative feedback was about these details when I felt like there was a
Mm.
precursor before coming to the detail, and the precursor is understand what is the frame I came into this with.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Oftentimes, when something is not going the way we want it to go, there's a deeper reason behind it. And if we don't care about that deeper reason, ultimately it will continue to go wrong,
exactly,
I think.
exactly, and I think it's the tough part because I don't think our world today actually allows for us to have that critical component of appreciation, which is time.
Hmm.
We don't have it. Like
Hmm.
the moment we're in university, if we're fortunate enough to actually be able to go, you're studying, 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 going to your classes. You don't have time to do anything else. People have to pick up jobs on the side to be able to make that happen.
Yeah.
Um, we leave, and then we're put into this situation of, oh, it's the job market. Look, find a job for yourself, and then at a certain point, you're like, okay, I need to figure out my priority. Is it to find a place that actually fits me and my values and who I am, or to get that money?
Yeah.
And that's when we forget about appreciation because at a certain point, we're like, we need to stop appreciating ourselves and just do what we need to do to get by.
Yeah.
And
You're
so
right.
I think it's very difficult, and it's for me at least, it comes from a place of privilege saying that we need time for it because I'm able to afford that time. But um, yeah, and in case
I
someone
love
is
so.
not able to actually afford that time, as much as possible, just try to reflect. I think at least I'm not in any position to be giving advice, but try to take that time to reflect on the actions you're taking and at least show that appreciation to yourself for the effort you're putting in.
Nice.
And I think there will be a snowball effect on the rest of your life.
Do you have like one specific way of showing appreciation to yourself?
Um, yeah, time to do nothing.
Hmm.
Time where I don't have to answer any phone calls, messages. I don't have to see anyone. Um, I don't even have to do any work or like there's nothing that's gonna come. Um, yeah, just time really to do nothing. And
Nice. Very
and
precious.
and that's the thing that I need to be able to actually breathe, which is if and that's the circle, which is if I don't get that time to do nothing, I don't get the time to do all the other things.
Hmm.
Well,
Snowball effect.
yeah.
Strong. And Eunice, you're also, with your work, you're doing a lot in the digital sphere as well, right? So I would love to touch upon that because how do you think is or can we show appreciation in the digitalized 21st century where a lot is happening over screens, across countries even? Do you think in order to show appreciation you have to be physically present, or how can we manage that in this digital age?
You know, I was doing a job interview a while back, and it was a fully remote job, and the team and everyone at the interview was so welcoming, and I felt so appreciated, even though it was just a job interview.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked me this one question, which was, Eunice, we all work remote, we don't have an office, and for me, and this is the person that was talking. She goes, for me, I get sad and lonely a lot. How do you think you will do with fully remote work? And um, I don't think this is getting to the digital aspect you were thinking
Mm-hmm.
of, but to some extent it's related because um, that showed me that she, one for one, already appreciated me enough to be upfront about her own situation. So that makes
Sure.
it more
Yeah.
favorable for me to even come in and be like, okay, well, honestly, remote work, like, it's not the most exciting, but yeah, I'll do it because there's other parts of it that are exciting, and it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm satisfied with my life. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
put that on my workplace.
Yeah. Instead
Um,
of coming in and telling you all the great sides of working digitally.
Remote, exactly,
She was very honest, vulnerable. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
and which also is a form of appreciation by itself,
Yeah.
and and I think on that digital side, sort of, how can we show more of that appreciation? There's really two things I think I would tackle here, which are, for one, I think the digital landscape today has a lot of noise. It's we we have all seen all of the AI slop out there, you
Mm.
know. We have all seen um the content that's repeating itself, the stuff that we've heard 1,000 times, and the clips of the clips, you know.
Yeah.
We watch it and we stay on it because sometimes we don't have better to do. Sometimes we can't think of something better to do. But I think as people who as a person who makes content um, for the digital, we have that responsibility to not only stand out from that noise, because that's the purpose of doing the content from the beginning, unless it's for artistic purposes, but also to make sure that you're contributing positively to that noise,
Hmm.
and that we're not adding BS to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then on the other side, there's also the idea of trust, because today we're seeing with misinformation and disinformation that our trust environment is completely skewed. We don't
Yeah.
trust institutions. We don't trust the platforms where we receive messaging from institutions. Um, and we don't
Yeah.
trust anything.
It's not only that. I feel like it's more like safety response. It's like we rather don't trust in the first place to just protect ourselves. But I oftentimes really see in the end it's we just don't know what is really going on. And that's why we're not trusting. So I think it's also about transparency, and that just too many things out of our scope or out of our understanding or knowledge are going on where we rather shut down and be like, the unknown, the like we don't like the unknown. And if things are unclear to us, then it's then we don't trust, or we have a tendency to not trust. And I think there's just so many things going on that are out of our control, or out of our expertise that make it really hard for us to feel comfortable with. Ultimately, actually wondering, do you think there's ways how we could empower the people? I think you call it digital empowerment, to become more familiar with maybe tools or with things that are going on in the digital world.
Yeah, actually, and when we spoke, I had mentioned that I work in digital empowerment and all of that. And since
Yeah.
then, I believe it was the UNESCO or UNHCR released a list of no-nos, of words to not use when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to work like this, and one of them is empowerment. And I'm still battling philosophically about whether empowerment is actually the right framing for this, but I understand your question. So to answer it,
Mm-hmm.
I think it comes down to critical thinking, and
Mm-hmm.
critical thinking is what for me and for most people working in digital literacy is at the last stage of digital literacy or digital teaching. It's at the last stage because before that there's so many foundations that you need to be able to think critically about how you use technology, what you post on social media, and how you intake information. With a certain set of skills, you end up building a responsibility almost to make sure that the people around you and the places where you work um, also um, also think critically about their engagement and think critically about their involvement in that digital world.
Mm.
So it's two parts for me, that empowerment. It's about responsibility
Yeah.
on the individual seeking to support a person in their learning journey, but then it's also about that critical thinking part on the perspective of the person learning.
Strong. So I think it's how would you phrase this? Like, empowerment ultimately comes down to equipping your people with the tools of being able to do that self acknowledgement or self exploration, and maybe to an extent where they also need a hand if they cannot get further. And that ultimately comes down again to time.
Exactly, and look, with digital literacy, for example, I've dealt with people who just got their phone last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's their first tech device ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this specific person, for example, that I dealt with was a cook, and she was cooking, and she was like, I'm tired of making the same recipes and all of this. And I was like, oh, have you tried maybe like, Googling recipes? She's like, Googling, what is that? I'm like, okay, have you tried the maybe like researching? Tried that verb? She's like, what are you talking about?
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, can I take a look at your phone? She goes, yeah. So I take a look at her phone, and I notice she has TikTok, she has Instagram, she has WhatsApp. I was like, what's your favorite out of these? She goes, WhatsApp is the one I use the most, but that TikTok, it's interesting, you know? I'm like, okay, that's cool. So I go, let's open up TikTok. She opens up TikTok. I'm like, I watch her scroll a little bit, and most of the content is, the classic content that keeps people engaged. It's stuff about crime. It's stuff that's
Said the
the,
number one
the
thing.
crime was
Crime.
yeah. And we have this weird obsession with it where we see crime, we're like, what happened?
Yeah, yeah. It draws our attention to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was a bunch of that, and I go, you see at the top of TikTok how there's the search function,
Yeah.
and this is something that to us in our generation is very basic.
Yeah.
But
You
this
just
person did
tap on
not
it.
have those foundational skills. So I cannot go to this person and be like, you need to think critically about technology, because already those three words they don't understand.
Yeah. It starts there. Yeah. You
Yeah.
have to start somewhere else. And in order to get there, you have to ask upfront these critical questions to understand whether you have to actually meet the person where they're standing at the moment.
And
Yeah.
and that's the thing, which, to tie this back to our conversation about appreciation, this person, I helped them find new recipes on TikTok,
Yeah.
save them, communicate them with her manager, show them to the manager, so that way the manager can be like, oh, okay, cool, I like this recipe, let's do it. um and so far I don't know where they're at actually in that process, but um at the end of the sessions that I did with her, she turned to me and she goes, uh Where, how do you know this? You know, I go, oh, I just spend my time on TikTok and on these things, so I just know it. And she's like, ah, it's so cool, and you know, I never knew that I could do this. But the key there is that she never knew she could do it.
Huh.
It's not necessarily that I helped her. It's that now she feels like there is a new level unlocked for her.
Whoa.
And that's what
Yeah.
I found to be something that appreciation can sometimes be given, even in ways that I never intended to show appreciation to her.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's big. And it's ultimately also, it comes down to sometimes just open, like literally opening doors to people. And that could be in a form of a behavior, that could be in a form of a thought, like what you described now, to just that the person can actually think, oh, yeah, I can get there, or sees a way, and to help them acknowledge that. Can be as, I would say, simple as that, but
Mm.
for a lot of people, when you have that moment, for her, it probably wasn't simple. Probably was quite mind blowing. While for us, it seems like simple.
It's a search function.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I would say I'd say it's almost less about opening doors and more about breaking down barriers. Because
Mm,
um
mm,
because we often say, oh, I can't do something because I haven't figured it out, or I don't know yet.
yeah,
I don't know about it. That's a barrier.
yeah,
We've blocked ourselves from that.
yeah.
Or yeah, my work is not showing me that appreciation. They don't value me because I'm not paid enough.
Yeah.
Okay, but there was a barrier there somewhere. Maybe the barrier was in the first conversation when they said, we're paying you X amount, and you said, okay. So then let's try to unravel that. Or maybe it came later where they're like, oh, we're gonna have to reduce your capacity because we're running out of budget, and you did not feel empowered or in the right place to come out and say something about it. So yeah, and that's where for me it's about breaking down the barriers more than it is about opening doors, because we don't know what doors are actually in the future of people.
That's true. That's very true. And to come back to these barriers, I think what's also, to tie back to the ultimately appreciation in the workplace, what's often a barrier or a door opener is, let's stick with the barrier, is actually I'm not sure where I'm going with this. Maybe it's more of a door opener I'm thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
How sometimes like these small acts of kindness or small acts of appreciation, that, and to tie back to that simple versus, like, it can be very simple in form of a word, can actually open doors for people or break down certain barriers. Like, for example, wow, this just made me more approachable to you, or this broke down the barrier that I thought I couldn't speak up, but now you just laid the stage that I can share my thoughts openly. And I'm going somewhere. Don't lose my
Yeah.
train of thought here. But I'm just thinking, like, can you recall a moment where someone did a small act of kindness to you, or you watched someone do like a small act of kindness that really stuck in your kept stuck, or that you really remember?
I think my one of my favorite um, acts of kindness that I've received was I was taking a flight to Paris, and it was like a 4 a.m. flight.
Mhm.
Horrible. Um, I
Who
show
booked
up
that?
at my school. It was yeah, budget constraints. And
All these students, they can stay up all night and then just go to the airport.
exactly, in my mind when I was younger, I was like, oh, this is great, you know.
Yeah.
But
So
I
they
should
didn't even book a hotel night, huh? They made you stay
no
up and
actually,
then
and
go to the airport.
we missed the layover. It was hectic, but so we I had this flight. It was with Air France. I remember this, and I come up to the uh, I go into the plane. My seat, it's written. All of my classmates are all sitting at the front of the plane. I'm in the complete back of the plane. So I just sit down. I'm like, whatever. I'm gonna go to sleep. I put on my headphones. I'm about to go to sleep. I get woken up, tapped on the shoulder. Hey, sorry, I have the seat right next to you. I'm not sure. Come in. The person sits down, and the person turns to me like, I'm so stressed out. I'm so worried. like flying, it's not my thing. And I'm like, man, let me sleep, you know.
That could be me, by the way.
Yeah, you have a fear of flights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When I was 18 years old, my parents actually, as a gift, gave me this fear of flying seminar
Oh,
from Lufthansa for like a weekend.
those exist.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
You sit down with this group of other people who are very afraid of flying, and a pilot and a psychologist. And by the end of these 2 days, this weekend, you actually do a short flight. Like,
Oh,
I
you
think we
actually
went
take the
from
plane, yeah.
Frankfurt to Stuttgart and back or something. Yeah.
Wow. I would have never guessed something like this exists. But like the fear of flying, I think is super common, and I think
Yeah,
I have it.
it's
I just choose
uncomfortable.
to like
Ignore it.
ignore it.
I
Yeah,
wish I had that.
yeah. I'm just like, no, 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 nothing's happening, you know.
Yeah.
But so
Sorry.
no, 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 it's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And so this person sits down, like complaining about their fear or whatever. I'm like, I just want to go to sleep, but I'm listening, whatever. He calls the flight attendant. Flight attendant comes, and he's like, "Can I have some water?" And also, I really feel like, I'm gonna start getting a bit closed up, feeling like the plane is getting smaller and the space is like claustrophobic. So I would love it if there's like a space that, I can have alone. Flight attendant looks around the flight and she's like, "We're almost completely booked, sir. So maybe I can ask the person next to you to move to one other seat." And so she turns to me. She's like, "Hey, sorry, sir. Do you mind moving to the other seat?" Just the person. I'm like, "I heard everything. Don't worry. You don't need to explain it again." She goes, I go, "Yeah, of course. Like, I don't mind." So I pack my bags and I go. She drops me a little bit closer to my group of friends. And then
Nice.
she goes, "Wait, are you with the students?" And I go, "Yeah, I am with the students." She goes, "Okay, let me try to see if there's another seat." As I'm sitting in that current seat, someone else comes in and goes, "You're sitting in my seat." So the flight attendant comes to me, tries to resolve the conflict, moves me, and I end up moving a total of like 5 times in that plane. And really, I had
Off to
no.
the cockpit now.
Yeah, I was almost like, you put me in first class. No, but I was actually really not upset, not frustrated. And I was just like, I want to get to sleep. So
Yeah.
whatever's going to get me there fastest, I'll do it. And I did those acts. I was like, okay, whatever. I sit down on my thing. I fall asleep. An hour later, I get woken up. And it's the group of all the flight attendants of the plane standing in front of me. And they have handwritten a note thanking me, specifically
No.
pointing out. They said, "Your smile when we posed the problem made us think that everything was going to be all right." And that specific sort of like comment
What?
is what really stuck with me, because I'm like, I got chocolate and champagne, but like
Yeah.
I didn't care so much about the chocolate and champagne. I was more like the letter, but to my friends I was like, "Oh, I got the champagne." So um
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah, and that was something that showed that appreciation in ways I wasn't expecting.
Whoa.
No.
And you probably just thought, I'm just going to follow what they say. It's not a big thing. And for them, it was a major thing because they're dealing with a lot of um, clients, or how do you say,
Passengers, yeah.
passengers on a daily basis that would have not reacted the way you did. So for you, it wasn't a lot of effort, but for them, it made a huge difference.
Exactly. And that was done through uh, maybe not to talk about the specific situation, but one thing we haven't mentioned, which is the idea of empathy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and empathy comes from, again, seeing that person and understanding that person, not necessarily because you relate.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be because of that. It's just because you listened and you were able to actually notice what is it that they're talking about, and the deeper part of it.
You can put yourself in their shoes, kind
Exactly.
of. Yeah.
Even though in this case they were heels. Yeah. For
You said it so
yeah,
casually.
yeah, just
That's like
yeah.
part of a commercial, could be part of. I love it. Great. Okay, nice. And I didn't expect that kind of example. That really was,
Yeah,
whoa,
the moment
cool.
again.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, Younes, I think I love our conversation, but I think it's time for a last question. What is a form of appreciation that anyone could show tomorrow and make a difference in the workplace? Do you have like one act of kindness that you might want to now publicly commit to, that you're gonna do by the end of this week, or that you can share with our listeners?
I think they say a smile goes a long way, and I think I want to be more generous with the smiles I give, because
Love
even
it.
thinking about the story that I just said, it's what impacted these people, and it's what I appreciated hearing. So if I just do it more, I'll be happier. I think that's it.
Love it. And it's gonna spread like what the snowball effect. It's gonna
Snowball.
show.
Yeah.
It's gonna show strong.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Younes, for
Thank you.
this conversation. I loved going deeply into the subject matter of appreciation. I think it's, oftentimes we think it's a simple concept, but it really is not. And I think we unfolded and unpacked quite some layers of it tonight. So thank you for joining me on this bit philosophical, practical, personal conversation. It was a pleasure.
Honestly, likewise, and thank you so much for having me.
Of
It
course.
was super fun.
Amazing. Well, and we hope you at home are inspired and follow Younes' advice. Share a smile. As simple as that, it can make a huge difference. Sometimes you don't even know, but it can make a huge difference in someone else's life. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope you want to listen to more episodes coming up. So we want to encourage you to sign up to subscribe to your favorite platform today. You can find us under www.brainsfirst.com/podcast. And yeah, we would also love to see you engaged. So if you have any comments on what we dropped today on this episode, if you might want to get back with any sort of questions to the both of us, please do so in the comment section. We would be super happy to engage with you. And until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, everyone. See you next time on the Neurolympics podcast. Ciao, ciao.